Hello and welcome to the 2021 Styrian GP analysis for Daniel Ricciardo. Let's dig in. We go through a summary and then we're going to analyze some of the lap times and gaps to teammates and key competitors. So Daniel started in P13, end in P13. Unfortunately, it's not too good of a result given the retirements ahead of him and also where he was a few laps into the race. Ninth quickest, fastest lap of the race, and 11th quickest through the pit lane. Did not win his team map battle again this week. Positives for Daniel, excellent start, jumping up quite a few positions off the start and then doing some overtaking after that, and that overtaking initially, and he's also fixed the engine problem that struck him early on in that race. The negatives, first up qualifying pace, really didn't have the pace, especially when you compare it to Lando in qualifying. Massive, massive gaps. And I don't know if the extra temperature on Saturday on the track impacted Ricciardo's setup compared to where he was on Friday in FP2. But really, that was quite a surprise. The engine issue, so he had an intermittent engine issue for about 30 seconds during the race, which meant he lost a bit of his power and meant that all his good work at the start of the race was completely lost. And after that, he was just stuck in the back of DRS chain pretty much for the rest of the race, which is really unfortunate because McLaren definitely had quite a bit of pace. And from a strategy perspective, you can see here, starting on the medium tyre with the free choice, and then moving on to the hard. Daniel actually went a lot longer than a lot of his competitors. We saw that he was stuck behind Raikkonen for a long time. And then looks like they're about to box him to undercut Raikkonen, but then Raikkonen came in. So then I think McLaren had no choice but to just go for the hope that extend out and see whether he could get ahead. And unfortunately, that wasn't good enough in the end, but did mean he had slightly fresher tyres towards the end when he did quite a few good overtaking. So here, if we look at the lap times, and you can see at the start there, lap number 6, you can see that jump up almost 3 or 4 seconds slower with that engine issue. And the problem with that was that everyone was so tight at that stage of the race that it meant that pretty much everyone behind him, 4 or 5 cars got past, which is very, very unfortunate. And then you can see after that, the pace relatively consistent, but he was just stuck into DRS train pretty much the whole time. Did make a few good overtakes through that, but at the same time, you really need quite a large pace advantage to be able to get through the train well. And at the end there, impacted quite a bit by having to adhere to blue flags as the leaders came through. Looking at the comparison to Norris, and unfortunately not a very pretty chart for Ricciardo. And admittedly, a lot of this is just because where he was in the race. With the DRS train, you don't have much of a choice often. We've been behind Raikkonen for pretty much the whole race for Ricciardo. Obviously means that he's impacted by the pace of that car, and it's just really hard to show the true pace of the car. In saying that, when Ricciardo did come back from the pits, after his first stop, you can see his pace was actually pretty good in that period before he started catching up with people. So that is one positive to take out for Ricciardo. And here I've got the comparison to Tsunoda, P10. So just looking at where Ricciardo was compared to a points finishing position. As you can see there at the start, he was ahead, did a great job and got up to P8 and then had that power issue. You can see just not much differential in the pace because everyone's in a big DRS train. Once Tsunoda pits, he starts to really eat into the gap down, and then once Ricciardo pits, does a really good job, but then it's said back marker and then also catching up to the back of Vettel and Raikkonen. Couldn't make any further inroads, and in the end was about 9 seconds off the pace from getting points. So that is the Styrian GP recap for Ricciardo. Not very good on paper, but I do really feel if he hadn't had that engine issue, then it could have been a completely different race. If you enjoy this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more of these videos, then subscribe, and I will see you next week. Thank you.